As I was leaving the museum, I ran into a gentleman by the name of Roger Moling, who's actually one of the designers responsible for the wonderful look and feel of this area.
You know, what would Grandma do? She didn't have a landscape architectural background. So it was fruit trees and plants, and of course this is before irrigation, so everything was watered by hand. So it was a real interesting project. There's a creek that runs through the old Poway area park here, and considering there's a running creek year-round in Southern California is pretty remarkable to me. And then on the other side of that creek is the Green Park, where a lot of the encampments and birthday parties on the weekends, and it's really a popular place for those kind of events.
Roger's a nice guy. Before he left, he told me about a gentleman by the name of Colonel Porter, who was really the driving force behind creating an area like this where families can come and have fun. Colonel Porter brought in an old 1800 style locomotive, and he would give rides to both young and old around the property. Today, that same train is here, stationed at the Poway Midland Railroad barn. I stopped in to meet the whole crew. They're all volunteers and love what they do. The group's president, Earl Kreplin, welcomed me aboard.
Noah, welcome to the Poway Midland barn.
Thank you.
Within this barn, we house an old Ryder engine, 135 years old. We've got a speeder car. We have ore cars built in the 1890s. And we have a cable car that was used and built right after the earthquake in San Francisco.
So how long have you guys been here?
This organization was established in 1991. The city bought the land from Colonel Porter's family. With that purchase came some trains, some equipment. The city did not want to get into the railroad business. They asked for city volunteers, people that would like to work. We have people from all over San Diego that come here, work on these wonderful, wonderful old pieces of equipment, keep it running for the public to come and enjoy.
All volunteers.
All volunteers.
How cool is that?
The first engine I saw was their centerpiece, Colonel Porter's original 1907 Baldwin, which was actually used in the reconstruction effort of San Francisco after the big quake.
How did you guys end up with it?
This went from San Francisco to a gentleman in Vista, who then Colonel Porter purchased it and brought it down to his farm here.
No kidding.
This thing was beautiful. Next, Pete Mahalkin shared with me another refurbished gem.
What we're looking at here are some 1880 ore cars, which we converted about 12 years ago.
An ore car, what were they used for?
They were using a mine to haul rock to the quarry and be crushed.
Oh, okay.
But the metal is original, and all the wood is restored by the volunteers.
So now we got you guys just take people around in these things.
Right. We converted them
Nice.
from ore cars to carry passengers. We have 4 of these, which can be pulled by the speeder. This is called a speeder. It's a 1950 speeder built by Fairmont. It was used originally to take people, railroad crews, to a train wreck or to do out on a track to do some track maintenance.
Oh, okay.
People would sit along here with their feet on a running board. It could carry about 12 or 14 workers to a site where they're going to be working.
Oh, okay. The horn works.
Yeah.
After the speeder, Pete showed me their latest project.
We're in a 1906 San Francisco cable car.
Okay.
It was used in Knott's Berry Farm along with 5 others for taking passengers from the parking lot to the entrance. It was a shuttle.
Really?
4 of them went back to San Francisco. We got one and went to San Diego, which is this one, and one went to Paris, California.
In this barn, they'll completely refurbish this trolley from top to bottom, all the woodwork down to the motor mechanism. At the Poway Midland Railroad, not only can you see some great oldies, but you can ride them too. I boarded a trolley built in 1894.
Welcome to the Poway Midland Railroad.
Thank you very much.
I'm James Keyline. This is my wife Kim. Today I'm going to be the motorman, and Kim is going to be the conductor. And why don't we take a ride?
All right, that sounds good. Out of the way, here we go.
This place is great. Where else can you go and take a train ride through a beautiful park? If you let your mind go, you can almost imagine being back in the Old West. How cool is that? With so much to see in the park, it was time for me to head on down the tracks. The crew was nice, and I can't wait to come on back. While riding the trolley, I spotted my next stop, which is another Poway landmark called the Nelson House. Built around 1910 by Norwegian immigrant Niels Nelson, the city of Poway purchased the home in 1991, restored it, and moved it to Old Poway Park and made it a museum. Inside, I met Jan Rubacki, who told me a little bit about this 100-year-old historic home.
It's a very nice quality house. Many of the things are original, such as the floors and the windows, and many of the artifacts have come back to us, and you will find that we have tried to keep many of our artifacts of that same period so that children can learn about history of Poway 100 years ago.
The home contains several antique pieces, including something that's personal to Jan.
Well, no, I'd like you to see the bedroom, and especially this bed. It's over 100 years old.
Wow.
And I like to show you the spread because my grandmother embroidered that. And I helped my mother embroider these pillows when I was a girl.
Did you really? That's beautiful.
Is that pretty?
That is beautiful.
And these are cotton organza.
How old were you when you did this?
About 8, 10 years old.
Really?
Yes.
As we walked through the house, I happened to notice this little box. Jan said it was a collar box. What is a collar box?
And you would keep your stiff white colors in here.
Really?
And they
Look
notice
at
the
that.
little button on it. And even when I was in nurse's training, I wore a stiff white collar like this. And my grandmother, my grandfather, my grandmother did the colors for my grandfather, and he wore them all the time.
Really? Collars were a big deal back then.
Oh, yes, very important. But it was detached from the shirt, you know. So
Really?
I guess they didn't wash the shirt, but they would wash the collar.
Things were just different back then. For instance, cooking was no easy chore. So this is how they did it back in the day, huh?
Yes, and you can see that it was a lot more difficult to cook this way. You had to put wood in here, and you had to keep it going all the time to get that temperature up. In order to do baking, you definitely had to get that temperature up, shake down the ashes, put fresh wood in, fire it up.
Jan was very informative and really helped me appreciate how easy we have it today. Well, all this exploring has made me hungry, and when you're in Old Poway Park, there's only one place to go, and that's the Hamburger Factory. Originally started by Colonel Porter way back when, today it's owned and operated by Phil and Cleta Spear. Phil told me what's unique about doing business in Poway.
It's very, very homey and family-like. This particular area here is probably the center of Poway, and it's very unique. The park is a passive park, as you've already found out. There's not a lot of organized activities here, but people come here, and it's unusual because they can sit here, they can have a burger, have a glass of wine or a beer, and they can let their kids run in the park and they don't have to worry. And there's not too many places left in the United States that you can do that without worrying, you know?
And the food at the Hamburger Factory is delicious. I started out with the rack of baby back ribs. They were tender and tasty. Next, I had the chicken club. It was really good, and I loved the avocado. Of course, I wasn't leaving the Hamburger Factory without having a hamburger. And yes, they make a good burger. Along with the good burger, their claim to fame is providing the world's largest and the world's smallest hot fudge sundae. I enjoyed them both. While finishing my lunch, I couldn't help but notice the decor. Everywhere I looked, there was something different. Phil said the neat thing, most of it was brought in by customers. This was a good call, and the Hamburger Factory is a nice place to stop.